Hi everyone, warm and keen good morning to all of you. Today we will be dealing with a special area from the civil service point of view, perhaps a crucial area that has been receiving greater attention over a period of time from the exam perspective. Before coming into our area of study, I would like to introduce you civil service examination, especially for those people, those candidates who are new into the domain. You know very well that for the past many years, of course, maybe for the past 10 years probably, or for the last 1 decade, the importance of civil service examination has been increasing like anything. And within a very short span of time, this has become an important or a crucial area of attention that a number of candidates, perhaps a large number of candidates have been attempting this examination, and at least maybe 1/100th of them would be clearing. Naturally, Naipunnya Civil Service Academy, Ernakulam, has been taking a special attention and has been attempting to mold the best civil servants of the country for the past several years since its inception, maybe more than a decade since its inception. And I very strongly feel that currently, especially when we are facing a lockdown, we are in a state of lockdown, we need to ensure that there would be a proper catering of classes to the student community at large. I take this opportunity, before going into my session, I take this opportunity to especially thank the director of Naipunnya, Reverend Father Johnson, and the deputy director, Reverend Father Simon, and Reverend Father Renson, of course, and especially to Dr. Sajida John, the current administrator, who took special interest in delivering video sessions, especially related to civil service examination. As we are not very sure that when we can resume our classes, I'm definitely sure that this video session and the ensuing video sessions will be greatly helpful, will be definitely beneficial to all of you. To begin with, definitely, I may be focusing my attention on certain core areas of the subject. And to start with, of course, I'm more concerned about giving you a general idea or a general outline about civil service examination and how the question paper has changed over a period of time. As you all know, the exam underwent simultaneous changes in the past many years, and it had witnessed a multitude of reflections, especially from the UPSC side, from the past maybe 2 decades, and right from 1990s onwards. If you go for a close analysis of the question paper, we can see that there are certain core areas with regard to the examination, and those core areas should be given the topmost and crucial attention. As you all know, what are the core areas of civil service examination? Definitely, to begin with, history would be considered as the most important and the top notch area, as history is that area which specifically introduces a candidate, a potential civil servant, to many new vistas of knowledge. And regarding history, we are supposed to deal with, from the prelims point of view, we are supposed to deal with ancient India, medieval India, and modern India. And from the mains point of view, all these coupled with two new more areas. That is, one is the world history, and the other is the history of India in post-independent era up till now. This is an important area, and this is the first core area. Second core area, as you all know, as a civil servant is supposed to be a person who has a good grasp of the Constitution of India and Indian polity. That would be the second and perhaps another core area, polity and Constitution of India, with all recent developments, including the judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court of India and the Honorable High Courts of India. That would be the second important area. Moving on to the third important area, I would say that maybe in the past 3 or 4 years, this area has accrued extraordinary importance, and that is nothing other than environment and ecology. You know very well that when the IFOS, Indian Forest Service examination, was combined, was delineated, was demarcated, and later combined with civil service prelims, now you have a common prelims for both. Those candidates are taken into address, they are taken into consideration when environment or ecology related questions has become a very important area maybe over the past 3 or 4 years. Of course, after environment and ecology, definitely without any less importance, we can add few more areas like economics,
as India or Indian economy and the world economy is a top-notch area for those students who are greatly interested. Economics, especially Indian economy and world economy, is a very, very important area. Last but not least, international relations and geography becomes your fifth core area. So these are the major areas about which a civil servant or a potential candidate has to be concerned. Today, I am dealing in depth with one part of this whole set of areas or this whole gamut of areas, and precisely it would be Indian history. So we are beginning our session, our first session, by dealing with Indian history, especially which will be beneficial for both civil service as well as for KAS aspirants. I am dealing with this area not only from a civil service point of view, but also from a Kerala administrative service point of view, as I know very well that Naipunnya itself has a number of KAS students, and from a larger common public point of view also, I hope that this video will be beneficial for those candidates who are preparing for KAS examination too. So when we divide the history of the whole country, when we divide the history of India, we can broadly subdivide it into three main areas. And the first and the foremost area that rightly begins from the Indus Valley civilization, that may be years before the advent of the modern century, the advent of the Anno Domini, that may be dated back to 5,000 or 6,000 years. And right from that point of view, we can trace the history of what is known as the Indian civilization. It is from the Indus Valley civilization that we begin or we start dealing with the history of India. As we already covered those areas in our classroom sessions, I am not dealing with Indus Valley currently. After Indus Valley, we can deal with the Vedic civilization, then the post-Vedic civilization, then later on we move on to the Gupta and the Maurya age, and after that, gradually we come to the South Indian side especially. We are looking into the South Indian side, the years of the Vijayanagara and the Bamanid kingdoms, and ultimately the end of the ancient age and the beginning of medieval India. Today I will be focusing my special attention on medieval India, especially those areas we haven't covered in class, since I need to establish a continuum, a continuation of those areas, and medieval India comes into the position. There are many historians who argue that medieval India began right from the 2nd or the 3rd century AD, but from a convenience point of view, we can say that even in the 2nd and 3rd century AD, there was a continuation of the administrative processes that were happening in the country, and it is only from the 8th and the 9th century that precisely we can say that there was a beginning of medieval Indian history, and that was rightly from the advent of those people from the Central Asian and the Middle Eastern region. To be more precise, the Central Asian region. There we begin with medieval India. We can find that the advent of Muhammad of Ghori and Muhammad of Ghazni, and their fight with the Indian rulers, their tussle or a tug of war with the Indian rulers, and the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate in India. Once the Delhi Sultanate was firmly established, there began the medieval age with regard to Indian history, and that continued till 1757. There again, there may be some people who may dispute with me, arguing that okay, why can't you make it continue for another 100 years and you can stop it right at 1857? But I would prefer that the year 1757 would be more appropriate for us to begin the third phase of Indian history, especially from a prelims point of view, definitely from a mains point of view also for both KS as well as civil service. And it is in 1757 that we rightly stepped into what is known as the modern age in the history of India. This modern age was definitely the age that rightly began from the Battle of Plassey and that lasted for a period of 100 years. You can find a number of incidents that were happening in between that definitely included the Anglo-Mysore Wars, the power, the tug of war among the different European powers that included the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Spanish, and the English, and ultimately the English gradually emerging victorious, replacing the French and cornering the Portuguese and becoming the supermost or the superior power in the Indian soil. And it was the gradual establishment of British rule in India. And the Battle of Plassey in 1757 was definitely a turning point. As explained or as elaborated by H.E. Holmes, a famous historian, it was a night of eternal gloom for India, because it was that night that for the first time one of the most prominent territories of India, in terms of wealth and in terms of geographical area, that is Bengal territory, had directly come under the British rule. From Plassey to Buxar, we can draw a straight line that is from 1757 to 1764. That was another important event or another important incident. That was the Battle of Buxar, where the combined armies of three major people, one was the then Bengal Nawab, who himself was appointed by the Britishers, then the Emperor or the Nawab of